Hey there, and thanks for stopping by to check out my video. I'm coming at you with another long-range match-focused video from the beautiful Day Mountain Ranch here in Preston, Idaho. This place is pretty unbelievable, so when I saw they had a hunter match on the calendar, I knew I had to get out here and experience it for myself. Now you might be asking yourself, what is a hunter match? Well, it's a derivative of the NRL Hunter Series, which I believe is right up my alley. If you've been around the channel, you know that I love the idea of practical long-range shooting, practical long-range accuracy. So a hunter match, what you're gonna do on the clock is come up, usually blind, locate the targets, build your position, range them, and engage them before the 4-minute par time runs out. That's no small feat. I was going to test quite a few different capabilities in your toolbox, things like target detection, shooting from various positions. In this case, there was a lot of tripod, making sure your rifle is dialed in, and then squeezing off a good shot. So it's going to ask you to do quite a few things to be successful in a match like this. Recently, I've been looking around. I saw there's a handful in my area, but this Day Mountain facility really is unbelievable when it comes to long-range shooting. As you can see behind me, they've got just beautiful scenery. They've got huge canyons intersecting, so there's crazy different winds out here. They've got quite a bit of elevation, and they've got some extreme distances. So you think about taking high angle shots, you're gonna do that out here. You're gonna have to be proficient in shooting off of a tripod, maybe down into a canyon, or maybe off of your bipod up onto a ridge. It's really gonna take your shooting to the next level. Not only is it a beautiful shooting facility, but they've got some unbelievable accommodations. I've been in the cabin here all weekend, so I'm here on site, right where the match is, so I don't have to drive. I just roll down in the mornings out of a beautiful, comfortable bed, beautiful cabin, refreshed and ready to shoot. So it really is quite the shooting experience. If you haven't had the chance to come out and experience Day Mountain, I'd encourage you to come out and shoot a match here because it is like nothing else I've ever experienced. Now, what are we going to do in this video? So this is my first hunter style match. So my plan is to bring you along for the experience. What did I do at the 100-yard line to get ready for this match? And I'll go ahead and give you a heads up. I learned something around positional shooting and AR, probably fundamentals that I cannot wait to share with you. 100-yard line. Then we're going to come out here to the Day Mountain Zero range where I'm going to confirm my data out to 1,000 yards, make sure I'm ready to take those long shots. I'm gonna practice what I learned at the 100-yard line around positional shooting with this Brenton 6-arc rifle. I'm gonna give you a look at the stages we shot, and then at the end of the video, we're gonna wrap up right here with a summary around my experience of the match. So if you like the sounds of that, stick around and let's get into it. Really quick, let's talk about the gear that I'm gonna run in this video throughout the match. I'm shooting a beautiful rifle here from Brenton USA. In 6-arc, what you're gonna see at the 100-yard line and throughout the match, this thing is an unbelievable shooter. So this is a factory Brenton USA 6-arc rifle, paired with, on the end here, the Griffin Armament HRT suppressor. And again, I believe this pair is shooting beautifully. For ammunition, I'm running the 105 match burner bullet provided by Barnes. Now, Barnes and Sierra have stepped up big time to support my channel. I really appreciate their support. It's companies like that that are going to allow me to continue creating content for you that we all enjoy. I love making it. I hope you enjoy consuming it. And I hope you enjoy getting a look at how the Barnes match burners are going to perform for me downrange. So thank you to Barnes for providing the bullets. We're going to move down to the 100-yard line, and you're going to see exactly how this package is shooting and what I'm getting for velocity. Now on top, we're going to be running the Leupold Mk5 5-25 scope with the Tremor 3 reticle. This is a scope that was provided by Ally Munitions. They've been a longtime supporter of the channel. They've helped me out with ammunition throughout the time I've had my channel. They've helped me out with gear in this case. Ally Munitions, they are really into long-range shooting. They're really into predator hunting. So don't forget to check out Ally Munitions when you're making your next gear or long-range shooting related purchase. Appreciate them helping me out with this optic. I'm running this optic specifically because it's lighter weight with a high magnification range. Now, something in a true NRL hunter match is there's going to be a power factor as well as a weight factor. Now, DMR isn't doing that out here this weekend, but if this were a true NRL match, my whole rig would have to either weigh less than 12 pounds for the light class or less than 16 pounds for the heavy class. Now, we're coming in under 16 pounds, but the point of that conversation is this Leupold Mk5 high magnification range with a little bit lighter weight. And I really like that because that's going to allow me to run the Vortex Impact 4000 laser rangefinder. And what you're going to see in the match footage is this thing is absolute amazing. The ability to range from the rifle is going to save me time. It's going to give me a much more reliable and consistent range that I trust, as well as it's going to give me spot on bullet drop to just hold in the reticle and take that shot. So throughout the match footage, you're going to see me running the Vortex Impact 4000. Now it's important to note when I'm shooting at distance, the Impact 4000 ranges correctly at my zero. So I have to make sure my scope is zeroed when I'm using the Impact 4000. So through the bulk of the match footage, I'm going to keep my scope on zero or a couple of tenths off, and we'll talk about why at the 100-yard line in just a little bit, so that I can range and then just hold over in the reticle. Now the last piece of gear that I want to mention is going to be the Badger Condition 1 mount. So Badger came in clutch here. When I put out one of my first videos earlier this year running their mount with the Impact 4000, they reached out and said, hey, we actually have a new Impact 4000 rail that clips on top. I reached out to them and said, hey guys, I'm shooting this match this weekend. I'd love to try out that new Impact 4000 specific rail. They actually overnighted it to my house. It landed literally as I'm pulling out the driveway to head here to Preston, Idaho. I was able to swap it out, get that Impact 4000 a little bit lower down, a little bit nicer package there. The original rail, it sits so high up, it's just a little bit awkward. This thing's quite tall. So that Badger rail designed specifically for the Impact 4000 gets it a little bit lower, makes it a little bit more manageable. The other accessories that we're going to be running will be my Fulcrum rear bag, as well as my MDT SkyPod. And then an absolute necessity in this match is going to be my 2 Vets tripod. What you're going to see throughout the match footage, as well as the 100-yard line, which we'll talk about here in just a little while, is the ability to shoot off of a tripod. You've got to be able to get that rifle up off the ground, to shoot off of sagebrush, shoot down into canyons, or up into ridges. So the ability to shoot off of a tripod is a must. And a ridges tripod that is quick and easy to set up is a must. That's something that you'll see me learn in the match, is the ability to run this tripod effectively so that I don't burn up a ton of time. Now from here, let's move down to the 100-yard line. I'll give you a look at how this rifle performs on paper, as well as the lesson that I learned when it comes to positional shooting. So next up will be 100 yards, and then we'll move out to Day Mountain Ranch, true the rifle up, shoot, and then wrap up at the end of the video. Prior to heading out to Day Mountain Ranch, I hit my local 100-yard range to put the Brenton USA 6-arc rifle and the 105 match burner load through its paces on paper at 100 yards. I wanted to get a baseline of performance there for accuracy and velocity, as well as do some testing off of my tripod to understand what I found to be a little bit of a point of impact shift when I swap position. So let's chat through my results. Now this target board here is actually from my second night out at the range. The first night out I just had a handful of rounds where I did a baseline of performance and decided to come back out the second night to truly put the rifle through its paces. So we have 6 groups here that I fired back to back to back. There was no cooling. So what you're going to see as I talk through these groups is a rifle that's getting hotter and hotter and still performing what I feel like is quite well. So first up out of the gate, I fired the group here in the lower left, or I guess on your side, lower right. These were 5 rounds that immediately followed the 3 cold bore rounds. So 3 cold bore rounds, and then I loaded up 5 prone with the bipod out at the front of the fore end. These 5 rounds total up at 0.75 inches. And what I found for velocity across the board is an average of roughly 25-35 feet per second with a spread of about 30 to 40 feet per second and an SD in the low teens. So velocity wise, I feel like that's acceptable. And for the match that we're going to shooting, it's going to perform quite well. Accuracy wise, I am super impressed with the rifle. A 3/4 MOA group right out of the gate with a decently warm barrel. Then I swapped where I had the bipod mounted from the front of the fore end to the rear of the fore end where my tripod is. And I went ahead and fired 5 more rounds, which landed here in a group that's 0.5 inches stacked in there super tight. So clearly the rifle is capable of some awesome accuracy with that 105 match burner. What I saw though is a point of impact shift just by moving the bipod from the front of the handguard to the rear of the handguard. This measures down 0.5 mils and right 0.2. I then swapped over to my tripod where I shot from a prone position on the tripod, so legs all the way out. Fired these 5 rounds right here that go into a group that measures about 0.8 inches, so again, sub MOA. And we see that point of impact shift mirrored here, so down 0.5 mils and right 0.2. I then moved to a seated position off of my tripod where I fired 5 rounds initially. My first round landed here and I had a bit of a vertical spread in that group. Didn't like what I was seeing there, so I went ahead and loaded up 5 more to make a 10-round group. Overall, this is a 2-inch group but if you take the two, what I feel like might be flyers or me out of it, it's 1 inch right here to these 8 rounds. So again, really nice accuracy. You see that same point of impact shift because my tripod was mounted at the rear of the handguard. Next up, I fired a group of 5 rounds here where I had my sandbag kind of in the middle of that fore end, and I used a rear bag for support. These 5 rounds went into a group measuring 1.4 inch, but what you'll notice is that point of impact moved back up kind of more in line with where my original 0 is right here. So it seems like maybe moving my support there on the fore end is adjusting my point of impact just a little bit. Then my last rounds were here where I moved to the bipod off the front of the fore end. Those 5 rounds from a hot rifle that has fired now 35 rounds, or actually 38 rounds, back to back to back, stacked into a group 0.75 inches right on top where my initial 0 was. So as far as accuracy goes, this Brenton rifle is an absolute shooter. You're seeing multiple sub-MOA groups fired here from a rifle that is now quite hot. What I learned from this exercise though is the AR platform, there's a bit of point of impact shift. And this is something that I think I might test. You'll have to let me know in the comments what you think. I might test some of my other rifles to see what I get. But what I found with the Brenton USA is my point of impact shift is consistent. If I move from a bipod at the front of the handguard to a position here at the rear of the handguard, I'm going to see that point of impact drop 0.5 mils and over 0.2 mils. That's replicated multiple groups here, and then it returns on the bipod to where I started. So I like the fact that it's consistent. If it's consistent, I can adjust for it. So my plan for shooting the match will be, if I'm going to shoot from something like a bipod on the front of the forearm, I'm just going to shoot my true 0 on the scope. If I'm going to move to a position where I have a tripod mounted here at the rear, or I have to put the bipod at the rear for some reason, I'm going to dial up on the scope, probably 0.5 mils to account for this point of impact shift, and then hold my data for the shot on top of that in the scope. So I'm only going to dial once will be my plan. So dial to correct the 0 and then hold for the shot from there. Now what I'm going to do next is go to the Day Mountain Ranch. I'm going to hit up their 0 range. I'm going to true my data out to 1,000 yards with the 105 match burner. And then I'm going to test my theory of dialing for the shot when I move to the rear of the handguard to take that shot. I want to make sure that my theory is going to work. I feel like it'll actually work quite well given how consistent the point of impact shift is. So in theory, dial to correct the 0, hold for the shot, we'll make those impacts. So next up, let's move to the 0 range at Day Mountain, see how the rifle performs at distance, and see how I'm able to correct for my point of impact shift. So we're here at the Day Mountain Ranch the day before the match, and I just want to true data on this rifle. Here on their 0 range, so I'm at the 1,000-yard target. I just confirmed my 100-yard 0 was good. My calculator's calling for me to dial on 10.3 mils to get out there to 1,000, which I've done. And what we're shooting at 1,000, there's the big plate that we're pointed at. It's pretty easy, but I want to true the data. So there's a plate just to the right there, probably in the ballpark of a 12 by 12 square. I'm going to favor left 1 mil to start. Impact on the left edge. So let's cut our wind back. Low left. Let's cut my wind back to like a 0.8. Okay. Impact. Don't think that impact. Impact. Dropped a little bit low. Let's just slow round 25-18. Impact. So that's probably a 12 by 12 square at 1,000, 10.3 mils. Several impacts. As far as velocity, I've got an average of 25-32. spread of 32, SD of 10.6. That's 8 rounds and a handful of impacts. So I'm happy with my data out to 1,000. Now let's move in closer and compare point of impact shift when I move back, which we saw there at the 100-yard line. I just want to verify that before the match. Now we're going to go back to 500 yards and just verify my plan for the point of impact shift when I go from the bipod to something mounted here at the mag well side of the fore end is going to work. So I'm going to engage. There's a little round target there at 500 on the left-hand side. We'll shoot that first. My 500-yard data is calling for 3.2. So I'm just going to hold that over the target. I'm going to favor left edge. Impact. 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 So there's 3 in a row, 3.2 mils of elevation. Now let's move to a rear supported position and see what happens for that. So I've set up my 2 VETS tripod, moved it back to the rear of the handguard and clamped in. Now we're going to shoot that same small plate at 500 yards. So my plan will be to dial in my correction, which was 0.2 left, and then up 0.5. Now we should be able to hold the same hold on that small plate and make our impacts. So let's see what happens. So we're going to hold in the reticle. Maybe a little high. Impact. So that's 3 mils. Impact. Impact. So I think the plan is working. Impact. So with that, confirmed that the shift is consistent, which is a good thing. I'm just going to dial on my correction when I move to a rear supported position, hold our same data, and make our impacts. I felt like it would make sense for me just to chat through each stage as I begin shooting them. So here I am on stage 1. They call this bison. And we're going to engage targets. They're small little bison-shaped plates from roughly 100 to about 230 yards. Now what you're going to see here in the intro is it takes me a little bit of finagling to get my tripod set up. As you can see out of the gate there, when I set up the tripod, I didn't like the leg configuration with where the clamp mechanism was, so I had to pick that up, rotate it, and then redeploy that tripod. But ultimately, you'll see me in a seated position here engaging several targets from about 100 to 230 yards. Yeah, what an awkward target that is.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Well, they always turn and go into the bush, don't they?
Yeah, sure.
T0. Is that that's my shooter name. Call sign with my quote unquote tier 1 group. Okay.
Yep. Did that hit the dirt and then hit?
Nope.
No, that was splash off the,
Okay.
off the
All
dirt.
right. Good.
All right, and then we're coming up to that low guy.
Yeah.
Impact.
Okay.
Impact.
Yep. Okay.
we go with stage 2, and this is going to be my trouble stage where I have a miss on the 4th target that I really wish I could have connected with. So this stage, I'll be shooting prone, and what you'll see in front of me is a lot of brush that I need to get up and over. And instead of shooting off of a tripod, I thought prone would be more stable, but that made it really hard for me to shoot through the brush. Looking back, I feel like if I'd gotten higher up off the ground, I could have cleared that brush. But what you'll see as I shoot is I have to move positions each time I engage a target. Somebody just shot my target.
They did.
What was that about?
I don't know. Wrong target.
No shit.
Yep. They just shot his first target.
That was not me, by the way.
Take it.
All right, here we go.
That's zero, you know, the zero shot.
Yeah, right.
Impact.
Impact.
Second target.
Holy cow.
Two minutes.
Okay.
Those first 2 targets look like Mickey Mouse ears.
Impact.
Impact.
Third target.
Ooh.
High.
You got another shot at it.
Impact.
Fourth target. You got plenty of time.
Re-engage.
Aye.
Come on.
30 seconds.
We'll get it. Off the right edge.
High.
Now that's my 2 shots. Stage 3, I had a ton of fun on, as this was the longest consistent targets. So as you can see, I'm on a hillside there, steep slope down into a valley, and we're shooting across the canyon to bear-sized targets, maybe the size of a cub. And they're going to range from about 600 to 680 yards. And what you can see in the footage, I'm a little bit quicker on the tripod, smoother with the deploying it, and I really like this position. I actually got really comfortable off the tripod shooting, very consistent, able to spot my impacts and connect several times.
I'm already on target 1. Do not wait for me.
All right. Pretty far. 600 yards. 4.1.
You have 2 minutes remaining.
All right. Ooh, way low. All right.
Target 2.
4.5.
Impact! Go to target 3.
4.7. Good call.
Impact! Second round to impacts. Go to target 4. 1 minute remaining.
650.
Plenty of time, sir.
Just over it.
30 seconds. Impact! Second round impact on target 4.
All right, that was fun.
Yes, sir. I got you for 4.
Stage 4, this might have been one of my favorite stages in that we're shooting again off of a downward slope, so it's perfect for the tripod. We're engaging targets. They're small little kind of squirrels or groundhogs there at about 230 yards. Then I transition up to a little bobcat type target at about 500, 550 yards if I remember correctly. And then the last one is a little prairie dog, which is a tiny target, maybe 3 inches wide.
Right.
And I think it was at about 515. And what you'll see when I shoot, I dialed on my correction after I range, held, and had quite a few impacts. Much smoother on the tripod. .7.
Hit! Next engagement. Hit! Next engagement.
All right, now the far bobcat.
Yep.
550 at 3.8.
Hit!
Where's the other one? Ooh, that's a small guy, huh? 514 at 3.4.
Miss. Just left. Hit!
Start now.
This stage to me is very realistic. As you can see, we're set up to shoot off the back of a four-wheeler, something I've done many times. A little bit wobbly, but we're shooting little round plates, and if I remember correctly, these were at about 200 to 250 yards. I don't remember the exact range. They were fairly close, and as you can see, I'm quite stable. I'm going to connect with the first 3 rounds and then miss on that 4th target. This is another one that I wish I could have connected, as it would have really helped me out in the match.
Dude,
Where are we?
coming on.
Yep.
Oh,
got
this
'em.
one's off the four-wheeler? Or whatever. I thought it was right there.
All right, are you on it, ma'am?
I am.
Okay.
Okay. Impact.
Is there 2 targets right here together? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's on the hill. I'm back.
There you go. Miss.
Yep.
Yep.
Here we are with another super fun stage. We're once again on a very steep downward slope, and we're engaging targets down in the bottom of the canyon. If I remember correctly, there's something like an IPSC and a couple of squares down there, and they're going to range about 550 yards. And in this footage you can see I'm really dialing in, getting my tripod deployed. I'm very quick, really figuring out how to hold the rifle and get those legs deployed. You're going to spot me ranging down into the bottom, dial on my correction, and then engage those targets. Quite a few impacts on this stage. We're finally getting this thing nailed in. And at this point in the match, I'm feeling really good about my shooting and about how I'm going to finish up. 514 at 3.3. 3.3.
Yes. Enough. Hit. 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 Hit.
Now this stage is right up my alley. This is going to be a prone stage engaging a swinger target at something like 580 yards. Really simple. Just lay down, range the target, and engage it. If you could spin the swinger, you got a bonus point. If you got a first round impact, it counted for 2. But otherwise, all of my impacts, 5 of them, counted for 1 point, and that was the max on the stage.
No, I just skipped 12. I think 12's good for this stuff. I love my 15 for blasting like ELR. I look better through both eyes than I'm on.
You look better with both eyes closed.
Maybe he shoots better
Down up
too.
here on top or bottom.
All right. Ooh.
High left. Impact.
1 hit.
Impact.
2 hits.
Impact.
3 hits.
Impact.
4 hits.
Impact.
That's 5.
That's it? Is that all I got?
You know, if you want to shoot 2 more, but that's all you
No.
have to shoot.
No way I'm swinging that.
All right.
Barely moving it.
You're barely moving. Here we go with the last stage of the match. At this point, I'm feeling a lot of pressure. I know I've got to make my impacts to lock up a solid finishing position. There's 4 targets out there kind of across a canyon, and once again we have sagebrush in front of us that I have to get up and shoot over. I felt like getting into a kneeling position with my tripod was going to be the ticket. I thought that would get me up above the sagebrush, allow me to range and engage those targets. So what you're going to see here, I get my tripod deployed quickly, I range and engage my first 2 targets successfully, but then I realized my last 2 targets I'm going to have to get up a little bit higher, burning up some time, felt a little bit awkward, but ultimately going to wrap up with a strong stage here.
Re-engage. Impact! Target 2, please. Impact! Swing it to 3. RO is on 3.
All right.
You have 2 minutes remaining.
Ooh. Well, shoot. My plan didn't work. Too low.
You have 1 minute 35
All
remaining.
right, we're good. If I can arrange it through that stupid bush. Yeah, we're gonna shoot the same thing.
Impact! Swing it to target 4. 1 minute 20 remaining. Spotters on 4.
pretty far. 3.500.
Impact! 1 minute remaining on the clock, Zach.
Wow, that was fun. So lights fading fast out here at the Day Mountain Ranch. Let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. You got to let me know in the comments down below, what did you think about the performance of this Brenton USA rifle? The lesson I learned there with regards to shooting off of a tripod, point of impact shift with an AR, that's something that was fairly new to me. But I actually brought out one of my other ARs to the 100-yard line off camera and found it had a similar point of impact shift. So in my experience, this is not unique to the Brenton rifle. It's likely unique to the AR platform. So something I've thought about, it might be fun to come out with several of my rifles, bolt guns and ARs, shoot them prone and off of the tripod, just like I did with this rifle at the 100-yard line, and see what we get for point of impact shift. If you'd like to see that in content, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd also love to chat about what you saw in the match footage around my performance. So while you're doing that, let's talk about my experience getting this Brenton USA up and running for the match, my performance in the match, and then just kind of a summary of how I wrapped up. Now, first things first, I know you're all probably wondering, how did I finish the match? I had an absolute blast shooting this match. I had a ton of impacts, and I knew when I was shooting that any moment, if I missed, I was gonna drop from somewhere in a decent finishing position to the bottom. There's very little wind out there today. The targets were really nice. They were very hittable. And I just knew, for instance, on one of the stages, it was stage 3 that I shot. I missed that 4th target. When that happened, in my mind, it kind of hurt a little bit because I knew the top shooters were gonna clean that stage, and I had just zeroed one of those targets. But ultimately, I was able to salvage a pretty solid finish. I wrapped up with 50 points, placing me 2nd overall in the match and the top open or the top heavy shooter. So in summary, I came together. I'm really excited. I had kind of probably a fluke match, but we made a ton of impacts out here. This Brenton USA rifle performed excellent. The package worked together really well, and I was able to salvage a really great finish. I'm excited. I had a blast out here. Thank you to the Day Mountain Ranch for putting this on. Now, as far as performance of the rifle throughout the video, at the 100-yard line, you saw that Brenton USA print beautiful groups. We shot 6 groups there at the 100-yard line. The first one was probably right at an inch there or just under. Haven't actually measured it yet. We'll do that in the 100-yard footage that I'm yet to film. And then we wrapped up that 6th 5-round group with a hot rifle came in under an inch. So from the first 5 rounds through 30 rounds on a hot rifle, sub-inch performance, as well as off of the tripod. Now, like I say, that point of impact shift caught me a little bit off guard, but thankfully what I found is it was consistent. So because the point of impact shift was consistent, which is what you would want, I was able to dial for and account for it in the match. So what I did in the match, when I came to a tripod, I would range with the rifle on my true zero, which is where I zeroed the laser. Then I would come up to the tripod and I would just dial up 3/10 or 4/10, just kind of depending on what I was feeling. Throughout the match, I actually came left 0.1 and just ran with it so I didn't have to mess with my windage. So with a consistent point of impact shift, I was able to account for it and make my impacts either prone or off of a tripod as I needed. Also, throughout the match, I felt like I got better with my tripod. First stage out of the gate, I was a little bit clumsy deploying this thing. I had the legs backwards from where the tensioning mechanism is or where I would want it. So throughout the match, I felt like I got better getting the tripod down, getting my rifle set up. But the star of the show, I'm sure you guys saw it, is the Vortex Impact 4000. The ability to range with the rifle is so fast, easy, and I was confident in the number that I was getting. So prior to shooting the match, I went out at 1,000 yards, put a handful of rounds from this Brenton USA on that plate there. That's probably about a 12 or a 14-inch plate. Trued my data at 1,000, came into my Impact 4000, made sure that the number it spit out for 1,000 yards lined up with what I actually got. I knew my data was good, and then when I got out here on these stages, I was able to point to a target with the rifle up to 25 power if needed. You saw it in the scope footage. Range it, get my drop, and then hold it. It made for a very fast firing solution. So from what I understand, in a true NRL hunter match, these would be permitted so long as they meet the weight requirement of either 12 or 16 pounds. This is an accessory that you can run. You just have to make sure it meets weight. Out here at the DMR, this hunter match is a little bit more lax. Not all the stages were truly blind. We were briefed on where the targets were before we shot. Weight requirement wasn't a huge thing. The power factor number wasn't a huge thing. This 6 arc, I was a little bit short on power factor, so it probably wouldn't have qualified for a true NRL hunter, but I was out here for the experience. And in total, I feel like this package performed very well. Allowed me to make a ton of impacts. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing that on camera. I'm super excited. And overall, felt like it performed well. You gotta let me know if you wanna see me do more of this style content, because I love shooting these matches. I love competing. Now, in summary, like I say, really happy with how we performed. Throughout the match, had a ton of impacts. I only had a couple of stages that I wasn't that impressed. There was the stage there with the 4 squares that I shot third, where I had to move my prone position a couple of times. Looking back, lesson learned, I would have shot off of a tripod just to get up a little bit higher and get myself more visibility down to those targets. Missing that last target, I feel like cost me quite a few points. I was only 1 point behind the winner. So had I hit something else, you know, it would have drastically improved me in the match, but I'll take that second overall. That's great shooting, way better than I expected to do out here. So if you like this kind of content, let me know in the comments down below. If you made it this far, I'd like to ask you to help me grow this channel. My channel's seen a ton of growth recently, and I appreciate each of you that are viewing my videos and supporting the channel. How can you help? It's really simple. Like the videos, comment down below. I love engaging with each of you around what you're seeing in the videos and hopefully help you get better in your own long-range journey. Maybe let me know what you think about point of impact shift relative to bolt guns and ARs or different AR handguards. I'd love to hear your experience, or if you want to see me test it in a future video. I think I want to see how my different rifles perform. I just want to make sure that you'd enjoy seeing the content, so I go out and create that video. The most impactful way to support my channel is subscribe. That way you're in line for my next video drop. I'm out here trying to pump out awesome long-range content, and I want to make sure you're in line to see it. So make sure and subscribe. I appreciate each and every one of you that have joined me for this journey and helped me grow this channel. From here, thanks for watching. I hope you'll join me in my next video.